Welcome, everyone. My name is Victoria, and I'm one of the field marketers over here at Critical Start. Thank you for joining us today for our Coffee and Finance event. Before we get started, I'd love to introduce you to our speaker, Randy Watkins. He is the Chief Technology Officer for us, and he is a thought leader in the security industry. Randy, take it away.
Thanks, Victoria. Thanks a lot. Appreciate everybody joining us and tuning in. We have a pretty cool little webinar set up. I mean, I'm obviously going to be talking about security, but as you can see, we have a guest with us. So I'm going to go through some quick housekeeping. Keep yourself on mute to reduce background noise. There's going to be Q&A. Please submit your questions in the Q&A section or in the chat. It is being recorded, so you get the webinar afterwards. If you got to step away or something, you can still see what's going on. There's a gift card, Starbucks gift card that's going out by the end of the day, and your Ember mug will get there by the end of the month, which is super cool. I have an Ember mug, love it. And lastly, we do have a latte artist, Michael Breach. Michael, you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Randy. So yeah, my name is Michael Breach, and I am a latte artist. And I think I have one of the most fun jobs in the world. I just get to experiment and make latte art, and I can pretty much make anything you can imagine. So can't wait to show you what I can do.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see it. We were talking a little bit before the webinar started. We got some designs picked out that he's going to go through, but kind of hand done, not that laser printing kind of cheating way of doing things. So should be pretty entertaining.
Right on.
All right, so I'm going to go through the agenda, keep it short and sweet. We're going to go through kind of the state of security and financial services. We'll look at some of the attack groups that are targeting financial services, their TTPs and IOCs. And then lastly, because it is our event, I'm going to talk about why MDR should be leveraged to augment security staff, especially given kind of the state of security and the resource shortage and kind of talent shortage out there. So first of all, let's go through the state of security as it pertains to financial services. Are you a target? Well, CISA released this really handy guide to look at the critical infrastructure pieces and essentially told all the attack groups and all the nation states, please don't target these. They're very, very important. And what that actually meant was, here's the list of targets you should go after if you really want your ransoms to be paid out. And as you can see, the financial services sector is labeled right up front. So financial services is absolutely being targeted by threat actors for a variety of reasons. But as you can imagine, financial industry does hold the money, and that is exactly what the attackers are after. So if we look at the 2021 VDBIR, the Verizon Data Breach Report, this is a great report, comes out every year. It's definitely something to follow, something to trend on. In 2021, there were 2,527 incidents confirmed in the financial services sector vertical. 690 of those had confirmed disclosures. And we're consistently seeing that go up for some reasons that I'll dive into, but kind of generally extortion. Attackers are after information. They want to sell that information, so they steal it, and then they try to sell it back to you. If we look at the attacker motives, not a shocker, 95% of them are financial. The other 5% are espionage. That 5% we really see targeting the larger, more global banks. So the JP Morgans, Merrill Lynch's of the world, they're looking for kind of investment thesis, where the money is moving at an international level. And primarily those are going to be the nation state sponsored attacks. The primary attackers that we see going after the financial industry is a lot of criminal syndicates, a lot of crime syndicates. So they're primarily out of Eastern Europe. North Korea is very, very big into extortion, ransomware, and that's usually what we're seeing target a majority of the banks. Pretty even spread across bank size. Although the smaller banks and credit unions do tend to get hit a little bit more with, we'll call it drive-by ransomware. The mid-level and larger size banks are typically more targets of interest, where the attacker spends a little bit more time, either compromising credentials or buying stolen credentials. And we'll go into some of those attack groups and their TTPs and who they're targeting. Now, what is this translating into for you? Cost of breach is going up. This is from the IBM's cost of a data breach report. Healthcare is way out in front, and they've always been out in front. Wow, that is cool. If you're only looking at the slides, definitely take a look at the coffee, which I believe is right above me. It is a money symbol with wings. So I mean, you get breached and you can watch your money fly right out the door. As you can see, the financial sector cost of a breach has gone up pretty substantially. 5.72 million average per breach back in 2021. 2022, the number's up to 5.97. Pretty far behind healthcare, but also pretty far ahead of pharmaceuticals, technology, and energy, the next closest three. So rounding out the top five, financial is consistently number two. It was number one a few years back, but healthcare, just due to the rise in killware, has definitely taken the lead there. Now let's talk about ransomware. Ransomware has really skyrocketed from 2016 up to 2020. If you remember back to 2016, 2015, 2014, ransomware was really targeting consumers. It was targeting end users. It was targeting, grandma and grandpa at home. And then, kind of as predicted, it progressed into the enterprise space. And once the attackers found out that, the better the data was they encrypted, the more leverage they had to demand ransom, kind of went through the roof. Most cyber attacks are waged because of financial motivation. So we do see this kind of picking up, and it'll continue to go up into the right, as you'd expect. And it's absolutely going after financial services and any of the critical infrastructure. Anytime they can demand a ransom, or else, you're going to see ransomware becoming a very prominent attack vector. And it's noted, right? And if we look at FinCEN, if you don't follow FinCEN, they have great bulletins that come out, great resource for all financial institutions. FinCEN is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and they actually call it out right up front. FinCEN combats ransomware. So they're looking at everything from, fraud, wire transfer fraud, all different financial crimes, and they put ransomware right up front and center. So let's look at some of these ransomware groups that are targeting the financial services space. First up is Avis Locker. They've been around for a long time. Very popular ransomware as a service provider, and they've been in the space for quite a while. I mean, they're still active today. And ransomware as a service, if you're not familiar, it's essentially just a framework or a kit that's published by a developer, and anybody can buy it. And you're essentially just renting the ransomware, and the developer will take, 40, 50, 60%. And then the affiliate, the one who's actually launching the ransomware, takes the rest. So, and if you're looking at the coffee, this kind of is following along with what I'm presenting. This particular ransomware group uses RDP or phishing to deploy the ransomware. They're using batch and PowerShell. So it's actually kind of a noisy bit of ransomware that is easily detected and can be stopped. The problem is it uses propagation via ping and SMB. So it essentially uses ping to find all of the attached network devices. Then it'll use Samba to push out the ransomware to those additional machines. There's no documented data theft, and we'll go into why that's important in just a minute, but they're really just pure ransomware. Now, this is the cheaper side of ransomware. It's about a $20,000 average ransom price. They do contextualize it a little bit. We have seen ransom prices going up. So 20,000 was the average, I think, in 2020 or 2021. It is up around 50,000 now. And if they do get a good chunk of your data, they're going to raise it substantially more than 20K. We've personally seen these go as high as about 150. There is a bit of a sliding scale here. Next, we're going to look at Karakurt Layer. They go by a couple of different names, but Karakurt Layer is what I've known them as. Now, these guys aren't necessarily doing ransomware. This is more of an interactive attack focused around stealing the data for extortion. So they go on dark websites. They actually buy compromised credentials, compromised machines. They work with other attack groups that only do the compromise. As you can see from our shield with the skull and crossbones, they're really looking at how do we get inside the network. So they also use some intrusion exploits, think Log4j, They were huge users of that when it first came out. All the way through March and April, we saw attacks leveraging Log4j to gain access. They steal the data, they exfiltrate the data, they get in and move laterally, they get mimikatz, they'll steal the credentials, they use Cobalt Strike to beacon out, and then they use AnyDesk to establish persistence to the machine. Now, because these guys are pure extortion and they really focus on and specialize in stealing data, their ransoms go anywhere from $25,000 to as high as $13 million, depending on the data they are able to steal. Now, the other thing to remember with these ransom ranges when I throw them out there, this is pre-negotiation. So obviously you can hire an incident response firm. Critical Start's done this before, where we actually negotiate the ransom with the ransomware actor if it can't be decrypted, right? So if we can't undo it, we'll go ahead and try to negotiate it as low as possible. And then it's just a matter of, do you actually pay it or not? That's a theological debate. We leave that up to the business on whether or not they actually do want to pay it. I mean, government guidance is no, but if you're a critical infrastructure and you're seeing, downtime costs kind of skyrocket, you may be a little bit more inclined to pay that ransom. The last one we'll look at is a little bit of a combination of both. And this is where the extortion play really comes in. So Avis Locker is ransomware as a service. Again, they've been around for a while. They actually leverage Exchange server vulnerabilities. It's their primary method. Everybody's going to use phishing. Phishing is by far the most popular way to spread ransomware or to get initial access or to compromise credentials. Leveraging a lot of the same tools as Kirkut with Cobalt Strike, AnyDesk. They use IP scanner to move laterally or to identify other assets. They also use FTP and built in, we call them lol bins, so live off the land binaries to kind of exfiltrate their data, move laterally. They do use some PowerShell and some batch files, primarily FTP though, to exfiltrate the data. Ransoms from these guys range from 50K to 250K plus. I've seen it as high as 400K, but usually 50K is your kind of entry point in terms of getting out. Now, these guys specialize in double extortion. This really started with Revil and Maze, if you follow those groups, but essentially there's anywhere from double to quadruple extortion when it comes to ransomware. So single extortion is encrypting the data and saying, hey, you have to pay us if you want this data to be unencrypted. Double extortion takes it a little step further. So one, they exfiltrate the data before they encrypt it. Once they have that data exfiltrated, they'll say, hey, you have to pay us this amount to unencrypt your data. And then if you want us to not release the data, you're going to pay us a little bit extra, right? Or they'll just use that as a threat to get you to pay the initial ransom. But we have seen this attack group specifically go back 2 or 3 times for additional cash. Now, the biggest question mark with extortion is, are they actually going to delete the information or are they going to release it anyways? It's kind of an interesting, it's an interesting kind of back and forth. These ransomware services do operate as a business, right? So if they don't unencrypt your data, or if they actually continue to release your data after telling you they won't, then there's really no incentive to pay the ransom. And these guys aren't looking to disclose information, they're looking to make money. So a lot of these groups, believe it or not, and oddly enough, they can be trusted to unencrypt your data. A lot of times they have, kind of better customer service than anyone else. And we'll definitely go into how Critical Start can help with this. You see our logo being drawn in the coffee above. But Avis Locker definitely specializes in that double extortion. Now, there's a bit of a problem because some of these attacks are interactive, and I'll go into what that allows us to do in the future. But the big thing is the cybersecurity talent shortage. More than 4 million people just to protect critical assets is what ISC squared is estimating. And that's just critical assets. So when we look at, what organizations are able to do, if you're able to detect the ransomware, it's oftentimes too late. You can't really respond to it. And even if you did have some time to respond to it, most security teams are so inundated with alerts that they're forced to throw them away. And if we look at actionable alerts versus false positives, both of them take about the same amount of time to actually triage and respond to. So if you get a false positive and a true positive, you're spending about the same amount of time to go through that alert, investigate it, and then take action on it. And what we routinely see is organizations forced to accept risk of alerts that they just can't get to. So they're essentially ignoring these alerts. And what that means is that attacker could be moving laterally through your environment and finding more machines to encrypt before actually dropping the ransomware on them. So what does Critical Start do? We sit on top of what we consider industry-leading EDR, XDR, and SIEM products. So we integrate with best-of-breed products like CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Microsoft, Palo Alto Networks, Carbon Black, Splunk, and a few others. Right? We ingest all of those alerts into our platform. We call it Ztap, the Zero Trust Analytics platform. Inside of Ztap, we have what we call our Trusted Behavior Registry that looks at every single alert that we ingest from those products and determines, have we seen it before? Are we expecting this behavior? Is this known good and expected? Now, if it is known good and expected, then we can safely resolve it. We've already seen it before. We know this is expected behavior, and we don't need to look at it any further. We don't need to escalate it to you. Now, if it doesn't match that trusted behavior registry, it may not be bad, but it's not known good, and we assume that it is bad, and it goes to our analysts. Our analysts will put eyes on glass. They'll do the full investigation and triage of that alert. And then they'll make the decision of, is this expected behavior? Is this known good? If yes, then we can add that to the trusted behavior registry and never show it to you again. If it is bad, or if it's kind of unknown, then we're going to take action. Right? We're going to isolate hosts. We're going to contain the threat. We're going to, maybe reset the user password, disable the user account, revoke session tokens. We're going to respond to that threat as long as you allow us to. Obviously, you can dictate our level of involvement in threat response, but we're going to take action on that threat. We're not just going to detect it and escalate it and say, hey, you might want to look at this. We want to stop that threat. Right. And if it's unknown, then we're going to work with you to determine why is this expected, and if so, why? And we'll add that behavior into the trusted behavior registry, so you don't have to worry about that alert showing up again. If we already know it's good, there's no need to triage it again. But the big thing is we're putting eyes on glass for every single alert that comes out of the product. And that's really important. And we're doing so in 1 hour TTD, 1 hour TTR. So from the point in time that alert hits our queue to the point in time we act on it is 1 hour. And that's a guaranteed SLA, contractual. We feel pain if we're unable to meet that. And what that means to you is we're lowering dwell times. So here's a good example of Ragnar Lockbit. We were called in to do incident response, and they had an MDR in place. They had a different MDR in place that alerted them and said, hey, this Ragnar Lockbit is executing. Right now, Ragnar Lockbit is absolutely double extortion. So it exfiltrates the data and it encrypts data. And it's typically used by some more advanced attack groups, we'll call them. So we went in, did the incident response, pulled all of the alerts out of their EDR product. We ran them through Ztap. And while the MDR they had alerted them to the execution, what we actually found was 32 days of activity by this attacker before Ragnar Lockbit was ever run. So this attacker compromised a single machine. They scraped credentials, they moved laterally, they got on domain controllers, they established a connection, exfiltrated LSAS, then established additional persistence by making new user accounts on different machines. Then they put in Ragnar Lockbit. So they had already stolen the data. Ragnar Lockbit was really just a parting gift. And the MDR that was there, they only saw it once it became a critical alert. Well, critical start, because we look at every single alert that's generated and we're only resolving things that we know are good and we can confirm are good, we would have stopped this after initial compromise. So maybe they would have scraped the credentials off of that machine, but by the time they went to move laterally, that machine would have been isolated, right? Again, we're responding to every single alert in an hour or less. And that really makes a difference when it comes down to stopping the attacker from moving laterally, establishing persistence, exfiltrating that data. We're able to make a substantial dent. Now, that didn't always happen, right? I mean, if you look 4 years ago, 3 years ago, ransomware attacks were really noisy. They were very spray and pray. As soon as they hit a box, they immediately started to spider across the network. They immediately started to encrypt files. And a lot of times they were canary files that ended up blocking the ransomware. Well, attackers always adapt and adopt. So they adapted to those preventions we were putting in place. As you can see, our attacker in the hoodie, they had adopted to those preventions that were being put in place, and they adapted to it by making the attacks more interactive. So now you actually have attacker hands on keyboard directly above in the coffee, and they are moving laterally throughout the environment, very methodically and interactively. So they're not setting off these alarms. Once they get what they want, then they don't care how many alarms they set off. And that's when they kind of deploy ransomware across the environment, just as a way to get more money out of a single breach. So they're looking to kind of expand that kind of share of wallet they can get from you. Now, we also wanted to find other ways to drive down the dwell time of the attackers in these environments. So Critical Start came out with a mobile SOC application. Mobile SOC is a native app supported for both iOS and Android, and it allows you to do literally everything from your phone that you can do from the web. So it's not just interacting with analysts, it's not just a ticketing system. If we escalate an alert to you, you'll get that pop-up on your phone, and you'll kind of click on that. It'll take you directly to the analyst comments. Now, our analyst comments are left in a way where they're supposed to be able to be digested and acted on in a minute or less. So if we send you this alert, you can very quickly see what was observed, what the risk is to your organization. And then at the bottom, we include, what do we expect of you? What actions need to be taken? Maybe it's an alert that we've already isolated. We've already isolated the host. The threat is contained, but that machine needs to be nuked and paved, right? Go ahead and reimage it. It's owned. You don't want that on your network anymore, but maybe it's your CEO's laptop and you say, hey, listen, do not isolate my CEO's laptop. No problem. We won't. We'll escalate it to you. And then through our mobile app, you can do one of two things. You can respond back to us and say, hey, please isolate this host, or using APIs from the mobile device back into whatever product you have deployed, you can do anything from additional investigation. So you can pull that user's alerts, all the way through to actually isolating the host, again, leveraging those APIs that are built into the product. So we're not requiring you to install any third-party software. You don't have to install any of our custom compiled applications. There's no additional endpoints, no network sensors, nothing like that. Everything is built into the products that you already have. And that's how we're able to stop those attackers that are amazingly drawn into the coffee. That is phenomenal. I knew I was going to get distracted by some of the coffee drawing when we got started, and true to form, ADD comes through with charm.
Hey, thanks. I was kind of going with your speaking points here. I've had the lock and I had the alert with the hacker, because I was just like, it's like a whole story. You have the hacker trying to get in, take your money. Then, you all are like, nope.
Bam. Critical Start comes in. We stop the attacker from getting access.
Yep.
I love that. That's we need you to come into the office and make coffee for all of our analysts that are up 24/7, 365. Speaking of our analysts, 8 weeks of training before they ever touch customer data, contractual SLAs, SOC 2 Type 2 and PCI certified, all the things you'd expect. The big number that I want to point out here is because we do have quality coffee in the office, and a couple of other things like vertical and lateral movement paths for their careers, as well as the fact that they're not seeing the same alert over and over and over again, thanks to the Trusted Behavior Registry. We have over a 90% employee retention in our SOC. That in 6 years, we've lost less than 10 analysts, right? There's no other SOC on the planet that can claim those kinds of numbers. And what that means for you, the customer, is analysts who have been there for a long time. They know what our platform looks like. They know how to, kind of work inside of our system. They're subject matter experts in all of the different products we support. And oftentimes they move outside of the SOC into roles like engineering, implementations, customer success. And really, they can provide value from a SOC perspective throughout your life cycle with Critical Start. So we'll kind of wrap everything up here from the presentation perspective, and then we'll look a little bit more at these awesome coffees that Michael's done above. But really what we're offering is a service that allows you to get additional return on products that you already own. They're already implemented in your environment. And really, it allows you to augment your security staff. right? We do have a 24/7 SOC. It's 100% based in Plano, Texas. If you ever want to tour it, you're welcome to come out and talk to some of our analysts. But it's a service that sits on top of your existing security infrastructure. We're an extremely transparent platform where you can see everything from the alerts that we're resolving to the trusted behavior registry itself. We don't hide anything behind the scenes. It's fully accessible through the mobile SOC, and we have the industry's best talent really backing it up and doing resolution of 100% of alerts. We're not only looking at the criticals, we're not just looking at the highs, we're looking at the mediums and lows where the attackers are living with those lol bins, those live off the land binaries. So we're really removing their ability to remain silent inside of your environment. And that's it for the presentation. Wanted to keep it short and sweet. There's a couple of poll questions that are going to come up. So if you don't mind answering those, I can't vote, but you can. So please do answer those couple of poll questions. And if you have any questions for Q&A, we can answer those now. Victoria, you got eyes on chat and Q&A. Are there any questions in there?
Yeah, so we have one. With a lot of attacks coming via phishing, what are organizations doing to target that vector specifically?
Yeah, so phishing is absolutely a huge problem, and there's a couple of different solutions. So the spam solutions of the past don't really work for the types of attacks that we're seeing come in. I mean, in some cases, they're actually hindering it. I've seen URL rewriting that's meant to prevent those spear phishing attacks. I've actually seen that thwart URL or URL filtering. So because the URL was rewritten, the proxy that was in the path couldn't determine if that was a malicious website or not. So what we've actually seen is augmentation with different solutions that are on the market or customers leveraging their Microsoft security suite. So we see an increasing amount of customers going to an E5. It makes sense for the organization. It includes a lot of different security products inside of it. And Critical Start works with all of those products. So inside the security suite, there's Microsoft Defender for Office. That's going to be your email protection. And it's a pretty solid product, especially when it's configured correctly. So if you do have an E5 security suite, you can leverage Critical Start to come in, do the services to implement that solution, make sure it's properly configured. And then we can do the 24/7 monitoring, which also gives us the response capabilities to remove malicious emails from the inbox. So if a user reports something or we see an email that's come in and it has a malicious attachment, malicious URL, unknown sender domain, domain name and sender display name mismatch, whatever it is, we can search for that and then remove it from the rest of the organization. Or we're seeing customers augment their traditional kind of proof points and Mimecast with additional email protection solutions that leverage APIs to integrate and really go through more intent. So they're NLP, native language processing based. They're going to look at, hey, do you usually talk like this? Does your CFO typically reach out to this person and request gift cards? Probably not. Right. So we're seeing solutions being stacked, but also additional leverage from that Microsoft security suite that most organizations own or are moving towards.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Randy. Yeah, so that is all the questions that we have for now. I don't know, we can pass it over to Michael. It looks like he's about to create something really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually pretty open. I'm trying to like what should I create? I was thinking maybe I can do like something fun. One of my most famous, I guess, most requested things are dogs. So I was thinking maybe I can do that. Maybe it could be like a watchdog,
Yeah, let's do a dog.
Let's see it.
Do like some watchdog.
Let's do a Doberman. Can you do a Doberman?
Yeah, let's do it.
I have a soft spot in my heart for Dobermans. I've had them, trained them, love them. They're great watchdogs. If security was a dog, I think it'd be a Doberman.
I mean, they kind of are, right? Those are the ones you see like guarding things, chasing people off when they're trying to do bad things,
Exactly.
So we're going to change our camera angle here. All right.
Now, Michael, what are you putting on top? And if you have questions for Michael, feel free to put those in the chat as well. What are you putting on top of it to get the color? I know it's food coloring, but is it just food coloring that you're drawing on there, or is it a different liquid that's mixed with it?
So it is milk, espresso, and a little food coloring. And I used to not use it at all. I used to just be like really strictly just coffee. But I mean, my projects and like things I've worked on just kind of started getting more and more complex. So I've definitely had some, big things before. Like, if you ever see this type of thing on, television or anything like that, usually it's me that does these. So I've been, I get all kinds of clients saying, oh, can you add color? And then I just started using it and just really enjoyed it, enjoyed the extra options it gave me.
It definitely adds dimension to the coffee itself.
Oh yeah. So we have this Doberman. Oh yeah. So I don't have a Doberman. I have Bernedoodles. They're not really watchdogs. They're kind of watchdogs, but yeah. So we have the eyes here. I actually just got traveled doing an event where I did a lot of pictures of people's dogs. So definitely have some practice. And you can see the face kind of coming together here.
Now, how long will that crema sit on top of the espresso and allow you to draw like that, or that milk froth?
Well, it actually depends. So it depends on like the temperature of the room and the coffee that I'm using, but generally around like 5 to 10 minutes. And a lot of people just say, oh, it's too pretty to drink, I can't drink it. And I'm just like, well, it's going to disappear anyways. It's kind of like a portrait of Dorian Gray or something like that, where they just kind of, fade over time. But you can see we have this Doberman guy here, keeping us being the watchdog. Looks very alert, right? The ears.
There we go. Gotta get the ears on there.
Yes. Sometimes I'll draw, I'll start doing a picture of a cat or a dog, and I'll just make the face kind of big, and I'll forget to like leave room for the ears. Definitely one of those things I've had to keep in mind throughout the years doing this. Oh man, he's looking pretty mean right here. Maybe I'll make him a very friendly one. There we go. What do you think? Spike collar?
Perfect.
Keep us extra, and keep those hackers extra intimidated.
Oh, that's awesome. I gotta take a screenshot of that.
There we go. We have our doggy here, and I'm going to add some more milk, and then we're gonna have some fun here. I think I'm gonna add some paws. Yeah. And as you can see, we have some paws coming out of the cup here. But yeah, a lot of people ask how I got started doing this, and it was really just a hobby at my job. I was a barista, of course, and I just, I had a lot of time to myself working at this hotel late at night, and so I just started experimenting with latte art, just seeing what I can do to push the boundaries of it. And then I started sharing my work on social media, and ended up getting a following, and then from there ended up doing lots of like TV appearances, interviews, radio, all kinds of crazy opportunities came from it. So, and now I'm here with you all sharing my work. Now we have our Doberman coming out of the cup.
Beautiful. Now you're actually a coffee connoisseur as well, right? I mean, you're not just drawing on coffee, but you hate it. You actually enjoy the coffee.
Oh yeah, I love coffee. I mean,
so in an industry that is extremely caffeinated, what is your favorite coffee? What's the strongest coffee that we can get to stay up and kind of combat the attackers?
Strongest coffee, I mean, I think the more like lightly roasted, the better, because it kind of retains more of that caffeine content. And actually, espresso, ironically, has less caffeine than a cup of regular brewed coffee, which a lot of people, it seems to be most people think espresso has more caffeine, but it actually is less. So I would suggest like a nice French press or something like that. But I also like coffees like Ethiopian coffee is my favorite, mainly because it's the only part of the world where coffee is actually like indigenous. Everywhere else, it was like just brought there eventually from someone. So that's literally the only place where it actually grows.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like now, I mean, it grows everywhere now, but that's like where it first, they first originated coffee. That's like the original place of it. Yeah.
Now, what about Turkish coffee?
Oh yeah, so had Turkish coffee a few times. It's really interesting. I did a thing at this I was at this Istanbul Coffee Festival presenting for a brand, and I had plenty of Turkish coffee. Yeah.
Looks like the chat is disabled, but the Q&A section definitely works. So if you have questions, comments, anything like that, do put them in the Q&A section.
Yeah. Feel free to. I'm gonna get these. And also I took some photos of these as well that I can send out afterwards as well.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot to take one of the Doberman now.
Yeah, don't forget the Doberman.
He's a little cartoony. I like it. It's kind of like Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo's friend. Here we go. Put this one up for you right here. All right. Yeah, and this method here too was really, where I started like mixing the colors in these sort of separate pots and then adding them. This is just something I was experimenting, working with almost kind of recently, and I found that it's been a really great method of making the art come together. Let's see. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to have Critical Start get rid of this hacker here. See you later. See you later, pal.
This is awesome. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining.
Yeah.
Everything is great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everyone, for joining our coffee and finance presentation. We hope you're walking away with some valuable information. Be on the lookout for your Starbucks gift card. That'll be in your inbox by the end of the day today. And as Randy mentioned, your Ember mug will be sent to you and you'll receive it by the end of this month. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at victoria.milligan@criticalstart.com. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria and Randy.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Bye.